Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivemy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of superhero television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are going to be talking about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
You really paused there. Maybe.
I couldn't remember if there was a "the" before. I couldn't remember if it was Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Falcon and Winter Soldier, or the Falcon and Winter Soldier, or the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's double these.
It's double these, but I totally get that, especially because Falcon doesn't often go by the Falcon. Let's be real. When we say Falcon, no, it's not like the Batman. Like, he is the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
But you're not the Falcon. I think this name's wrong.
Well, because I think like a titular "the" is something that works best for like a boogeyman type figure. Like, you're the Baba Yaga.
Yeah, you're the Batman.
The boogeyman.
Yeah.
The Winter Soldier. People are like, who even is the Winter Soldier? Or at least at first. Now the world's like, we know it's that guy. But like, yeah, it's a mysterious thing. You're not like, the Falcon. Like, no, it's Falcon.
No, he's like the nicest guy in the world.
Hi, I'm Sam. Like, he doesn't even...
His identity's not even hidden. You know that it's Sam Wilson.
It's, hi, I'm Sam.
It's
I'm
hi,
here.
I'm Sam. So but it is the, and also we call it Sam and Bucky for short.
We didn't call it, but the Falcon and the
Winter
Soldier
Soldier
is what we're going to be talking about this week on the podcast. And we're going to be talking about the entirety of the season, the whole shebang. We're going to be talking about the whole thing. So spoiler warning up ahead. But before we get into a spoiler section, we are going to give you a spoiler-free review. So whenever we talk about a new TV show or movie, we always give a spoiler-free review for anyone who is on the fence, uncertain, maybe not caught up, and they just want a taste of this episode of the podcast. Whatever situation you're in. I think we kind of talked about it with WandaVision. If you're in for a penny, you're in for a pound with the MCU. I can't imagine there's many people like on the fence about watching this, but it's tradition. We do the dang thing. Spoiler-free review. Diana, did you like it?
I did like it. This is one of the hardest one of these that I've ever had to do for multiple reasons. I think everybody knows Bucky's my favorite character in the MCU. So this is very hard for me. It's a like, it's not a love. I think the action's really good. I think Sam and Bucky are very, very good. Lots of things that I can't say because this is a spoiler-free section, and there's tons of spoilers in this show. But I think a lot of the extra things are very good. The villain is the worst. There is no danger, doesn't make any sense. So there's a lot of really bad structural plotting, but it's also like one of the MCU's most important shows in some ways. So there's some real ups and downs, and sometimes it's just not fun to watch. And then some episodes were really good. So it's even hard to give it a recommend because it's like, I love some episodes. I only liked some episodes. Some parts were really boring and poorly done. It's a roller coaster of everything, but there's fun cameos, there's fun fight scenes. Sam and Bucky are great together. So let's give it a like and say Diana liked it. Andrew, did you like it?
I'm having a tough time with this one because I like you. I really wanted to like it, and I'm somewhere in between like meh to like on this one.
Fair.
I do think the show fails at what it wants to be, which is this cool international like spy action espionage. Who do you trust? We've got to work with people we don't like thriller. And
is that what you thought it was? That's not what I thought it was at all.
But I think that whatever this is trying to be, it fails. It fails structurally. The beats are bad. The villain, I'm going to say each attempt at a villain, of which they do too many, all of them fail and fail miserably. Like disinteresting, who cares, none of it lands. But the strength of this show are character beats. And there are moments where there are great performances in this show, which really like put the whole goddamn show on its back. And those performances, in addition with like some quippy little moments and moments of like fun charm. So it is engaging, and I would say like fun and charming at its best. But it's trying to be whatever genre or we think it might be. It's trying to be something big and bombastic and better than it is, and it is not. It is not. It is, I think, a lot of wasted budget, and it is as fun and charming as an episode of an animated Avengers show for like there are 3 lines of dialogue where you're like, well, that kind of makes the episode worth it, I guess. But I think it's best watched with that level of intent to be like, this is a Saturday afternoon cartoon show. Because I really wanted to like this, but I do think
you and me both. I mean, I'm the biggest Bucky stan in the world. I've been gearing up for this, and there's a lot of disservice going on here. Like, it's just like you said, it's structurally bad. I didn't check if they had a different director each time. A show like this, they usually do, and you can feel it. Each show is each episode is a totally different tone, but not enough of a different tone that you're like, ooh, that's on purpose.
Yeah, it's not WandaVision where it's like we're doing a different pastiche every episode.
It's like the first episode, they're separated, and it's like a dark introspective on their on like who they are as men. And second episode, it's like, oh, this is a buddy cop comedy, or action movie comedy thing. And then the third episode, it's a show about a villain. Like, it's not. There's never any. It's only 6 episodes long, and there's never any consistency.
It's 6 episodes long, and it feels like I watched 9 seasons of a show. There are that many like disparate plot lines that are happening. It is very all over the map. And every now and then, and I will give the show this, when it connects hard. There will be maybe 7-minute windows at a time.
I would say all of episode 5.
Episode 5 is pure. There is one wall-to-wall killer episode. And then each other episode has maybe like a 7-minute window where it connects on every possible level and then just falls apart so bad. So real mixed bag. I'm in between meh and like it, and maybe that's just because I really want to like it. I can't imagine ever watching this again.
I might watch it as a background show just because of my love, of my Bucky
Fair.
love. But, like, I can't recommend it for other people for that reason. But there are things to like. Like, Sam's journey is incredible.
Yes.
Bucky doesn't go on as much of a journey. His journey's still okay, but Sam's is incredible. So there's things to like. There's things to not enjoy. If you can just if you know it's not super great when you go in, I think that's so much better. WandaVision set this show up to fail.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like, if I could only compare this to, like, Marvel Netflix show, I'd be like, oh, it's, like, pretty good for a Marvel Netflix show.
I honestly would say it's not as good as a Marvel Netflix show.
Not all of them, but,
Right.
like, you know, it's in the middle of the pack for Marvel Netflix. It's
Yeah.
a lesser Daredevil season.
Right.
So it's hard to follow up WandaVision, which was groundbreaking, and they don't really do it.
No.
Which makes me sad, but it's still totally watchable. It's not a complete failure, but it's very incongruous.
Yeah, I think it is, since it is a short season, I think it is at least, if you are on the fence, it is at least worth watching passively with lowered expectations. Definitely worth with a passive watch.
Yeah, I would say the same.
And can it be spoiled?
It absolutely can be spoiled. There are so many things happening here. Some would say too many things.
I would say too many things. I would say, I would agree that things can be spoiled because there's a lot going on, but it does suffer that thing where there's so much going on, nothing can be spoiled because it's all kind of nonsense and gibberish anyway.
A little bit.
There are definitely things that are unexpected that happen, but none of them I never made a gasp. At no point was I like, oh, wow, they went there. At every given point, I was like, I guess you've changed that from the last scene. So it can be loose spoiled, is what I would argue.
I would say the spoilers are, none of them trended on Twitter.
Yeah, that's how little they connected.
There was never a day where you couldn't go on Twitter.
Yeah.
And that is the opposite of how spoiler. Like, you should be scared to go on if there's a big spoiler. There was never a day where there was like, that's the day you shouldn't have checked Twitter.
Yeah, fair.
That's how I'll say.
All right, that's fair. Well, that's the spoiler-free review. Before we get into the spoiler-filled section, we want to thank our first wonderful sponsor of today's episode. You know them and love them. It is tpublic.com.
tpublic.com is great right across the board.
Uh-huh.
The quality is always increasing. The designs are always more numerous than before the last time you checked.
You can't see this, but she's using her arm to make a graph kind of a gesticulation.
But my graph can only go as high as my arm.
It's constantly going up. Like a straight line, not exponential, but a straight line up of of good stuff.
Of good stuff from tpublic.com. They got designs that you're going to love that you're not going to find anywhere else, and you're going to put those designs on any piece of clothing that you need for the upper half of your body.
Yes. Yeah.
Specifically.
Because they make T-shirts, long sleeves, hoodies, pullovers, zip-ups, masks as well. And if you're not in the market for clothing, you can also get cell phone cases, laptop cases, pillows, and much accoutrement for your house. And they have great designs by independent artists, like ones that we're liking this week on the tip of Bucky and Falcon. I'm liking one called America's Next Captain, and it is the shield with a silhouette of Sam and a silhouette of Bucky kind of standing in front of the shield. And it's this fun, like, splash art kind of style. I really dig it.
Splash art's what that's called.
Yeah.
Thank you. I see that all the time, and I'm like, ooh, messy. But, like, in a compliment way?
Yeah, it's complicated.
It's complicated.
That's what I'm liking this week.
I'm liking a shirt I'm wearing. It's called Captain America t-shirt. Even though it's a Bucky shirt, I think it's because the design is from one of the Cap movies. So it's half of the red star from his arm, and then the other half of the red star is his activation codes.
Yeah.
I'm wearing it now. I'm
From
looking
Civil
at
War,
it
the
in the
long
store.
and rusted 17 Daybreak, Furnace 9 benign, Homecoming 1 freight car. Weird that they throw a quick rhyme in there with the 9 benign back to back.
Probably doesn't rhyme in Russian.
Maybe it doesn't.
I bet in Russian it don't rhyme.
That makes a lot
I'm
more
really
sense.
surprised they have a word for homecoming in Russian. That feels very American.
Maybe just as a contracted word. Like, there's definitely home and coming,
Yeah.
but I don't know if they have a
If
contracted
they have like a
word for that.
homecoming
Right.
like prep thing in Russia. But anyway, it's a wonderful shirt. I like that it's like one of those ones that's nerdy, but it's not nerdy if you don't know what it is. Secretly nerdy.
Secrets.
It's got my secrets, so I wear it all the time. I think I have 3 shirts with this design on it.
You've got several Bucky shirts at the very least.
I have many Bucky shirts.
Yes, and those are all available in our storefront over at tpublic.fromsuperheroes.com. When you shop through that store link, not only does commission get paid to the independent artist who created the design, but you also directly support this show as well. So you can see the designs we just mentioned, previous ones we brought up on the podcast, ones we've never mentioned, or if you just or if you just go to that link, you can shop around the whole TeePublic site, and you'll support this store. So that is tpublic.fromsuperheroes.com, public.fromsuperheroes.com, and thank you, TeePublic, for your support.
Thank you so much, TeePublic.
And now let's get into the episode proper. Spoilers ahoy! We are talking about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Spoil.
All right, so spoilers. I would say like the only one that may be even close to gasp, which was just the fact that Julia Louis-Dreyfus is cast and in the Marvel Universe. She is a delight in the few handful of moments. The character beats weren't really big gasps or like, oh my God, they're going there or anything like that. It was really just more like, I love you as a human actor. Thank God you're here. You are a breath of better than fresh air, revitalizing air.
You are a breath of air that's gone through several filters, just the freshest of air. I totally agree. She's the only cast member I didn't know was in the show because I'm like, I've already looked up all this stuff about it. They really kept that one hidden.
Yeah.
And she was so good. Like, she wasn't in there enough, but like, you know, we're getting seeds that she's gonna do more. She's building a Thunderbolts or something or whatever. We're gonna also see her in Black Widow apparently.
Right.
Lots going on. So she was great. That was the only like spoiler where you're like, I had no idea. And everything else would kind of be like, yeah, it's from the comics. I get it.
Right. Did you see the video today that she posted of her in like the black robes going on to set?
No.
She looks like the murderer from Scream going on to set because they're trying to hide that she is on set filming any of the things.
Was she in like a mask?
No, but like it's a big droopy hood that went right over. So it was very, very hard to see who she was, what she was dressed as, what was going on.
This explains why her second scene was in the same place as her first scene for no particular reason.
Yeah.
When she gives U.S. Agent his new outfit, I'm like, why are you in the hearing room of the Senate again?
Yeah.
You don't work here. None of you work here.
It was the room off of the hallway they just shot their other scene in.
Yeah, so same day.
That one location they had locked down for a day.
So yeah, one day of Julia Louis-Dreyfus sneaking in and out in robes, definitely in one location, but she was delightful.
Well, bigger picture stuff about this show. So before we get into the nitty gritty and of the specific things that we loved, and I think a few of the things that we're absolutely going to dunk on, bigger picture about this show that might garner it some leeway from us, just as a weird aside of the show.
I like opening with this.
Yeah, let's
Giving
just open with
giving it a little credit.
Let's give a little context and credit where credit's due. So first of all, because of gestures towards everything, COVID, the world, everything that's happening. Originally, this show was supposed to be the first Disney Plus show. So this was supposed to come out before WandaVision. And I think it coming out now, after WandaVision, and the reason that that timeline adjustment happened is because when COVID happened, productions halted. They were filming in Europe, whereas WandaVision was filming on a soundstage, obviously with a much smaller cast, under controlled conditions where it was easier to lock down sets and create safe environments. So they got back to work quicker and they worked faster versus Falcon and Winter Soldier, where they got back to work slowly in outside environments and on location sets with bigger casts and harder to control environments. So it slowed them down, and they came out second when they were supposed to come out first. And I think that does hurt the appreciation of this show a little bit.
Oh, yeah. If this show came out first, we'd be like, oh, pretty good. Like MCU quality, some writing flubs, but, you know, it's great. It's as good as superhero shows get. Not as good, because there's some really good ones out there, but, like, you know, not a failure. Be like, oh, okay, so this is what they're going to be like.
It would be a great tone setter to be like, all of you coming to Disney Plus have been wondering, are the Disney Plus shows going to be like the movies, or is it going to be like watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. on ABC, which we have loved in the past?
Oh, we love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. most of the time.
But the budgetary gap between that and the MCU is visible. You watch an episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and we even joked in season 1, there was one where like there was just a single bush in a desert, and they hid behind the one bush.
Guys, we made fun of that
because they didn't have
single
enough
bush
set dressing to make more. But
so much.
if this was the first Disney Plus show, it would be such a tone setter to be like, look, we have the budget, we have the locations, we have the actors. This is the type of at least visual and budgetary quality we're going to bring to Disney Plus. And it's...
I would also say part of the universe as well.
Yes.
Like, very much attached to the movie. Not detached like Marvel Netflix, not detached like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Inhumans, like... Obviously, because we're in the spoiler section by the end, he's Captain America.
Yeah.
So if this show comes out first, you're like, oh, okay, the shows are important. He became Captain America.
They're changing the movies of the future with these shows.
Yes.
It's not just movie characters get demoted to television. They move to television and will move back to movies.
Yes.
Which is huge. And I think like a total game changer and would have been a huge conversation if WandaVision didn't come out first. Mm-hmm. So that took away a lot of its thunder. And WandaVision being so different and unexpected and noteworthy and remarkable in how experimental it was, then followed by this, which is very milquetoast, paint by numbers MCU, it makes this unremarkable. Mm-hmm. Whereas I don't think unremarkable is a word I would have used to describe this if it came out first. If it came out first, I might be like, well, that was fun MCU stuff. I wouldn't say unremarkable.
No, you wouldn't have anything to compare it to. The only thing we could compare it to on Disney Plus would be Mandalorian, which is remarkable. Not gonna lie. Great show, but it's not an MCU show. It's Star Wars. So it's a little bit different. So yeah, WandaVision being so good did do a disservice to Bucky and Falcon. Yeah. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
And the Falcon.
The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Sorry, boys.
Which is always, every time we discuss it on the podcast, we talked about it with Invincible as well. It's such an awkward conversation to be like, are you at fault for timing and when you come out? And I think for something like production delays due to COVID, I'm a little bit more lenient. But then there's the other thing.
I was going to say, speaking of timing, the thing that really seems to have brought this down, which is only theories and leaks and rumors. Allegedly. There are alleged rumors that this show is chopped up and changed quite a bit from what was filmed because the original storyline involved a pandemic.
Yes.
And when you watch it with that in mind, you can really see it. With everything with Carly.
And even when you watch it without that in mind, I will say without the allegedly, incontrovertibly, this show is edited to shit. Its editing is miserable. Like, it is bad continuity edits as well, where there are times where it's just like they're in one room and it cuts and they're just in a different room simultaneously, or their clothing is changed, but they haven't changed days or locations.
Or the angles are suddenly very different and then go back to the first angles, but not in a way that seems purposeful, in a way that was like, this was a different scene.
Yeah. So, like, stylized stuff that isn't actually style. It's just really like the camera's moving wildly and weird. And then, continuity stuff, like how did they get there? What's happening?
And so many 80-yard lines.
Lot of 80-yard lines, which for those of you who don't know are lines that are recorded later and then substituted in because they didn't say it on set. So there's a lot of stuff like that. I'm going to say incontrovertibly there's a lot of that. But allegedly it is because they edited out an entire plot line about a pandemic or virus of some sort because they felt it distasteful, because they started filming it before COVID.
Yeah, because everything, and when you watch scenes with Carly, like, she's so underdeveloped, and it seems like that's the reason why. Like, one of the very first scenes you see her in, she's walking, and then all of her dialogue is her doing voiceover, and you never see her mouth. Mm-hmm. And you never hear anyone, like, you never see her speak on screen for, I think, like 2 episodes, because all of her lines are just kind of in voiceover while she walks through scenes. And then the bad guys are doing things like stealing medicine and vaccines, but you're like, why?
Vaccines to what?
Vaccines to what? Medicine for what? And then you find out her mentor died of, like, tuberculosis. And, like, what?
Yeah.
What?
So this mentor character, it's so strange, that initial setup to be like, they're stealing, they're desperate for vaccines. And, like, it's just a hard edit then. And everyone's like, yep, vaccines, no further questions. And then the whole my mentor dies happens weirdly off screen. She gets like half of a scene with a woman in a hospital, hooked up to equipment, clearly on the last moments of her life, and it feels like they have half of a scene where there's something they're not talking about, where it's like, you were like a mother to me, you were so important. Cut to America. Sam's got a fishing boat. So it feels like that scene ends early, and then later it's just like, she died of, and someone off camera says tuberculosis.
Mr. Black.
Mr. Black. Like, so it's so clearly like, that fucking wasn't tuberculosis. We all know you didn't have a random one-off, off-screen tuberculosis storyline.
That is the motivator for her to create a terrorist organization or a movement of some kind. Yeah, that's not what it was. And it also the editing and the changes, if they are there, I hope they are, because otherwise they just wrote no motivations for Sam and Bucky throughout most of this show. For example, the first time they fight the Flag Smashers, they do not know they are super soldiers. They think they're regular people. Mm-hmm. Or I guess they think there's like one.
Right.
Because the Torres gets beat up by a super soldier. So I think there's one super soldier. And then they think they're just stealing vaccines. So it's a group stealing vaccines. Bucky, Falcon, the new Cap, and Battlestar all go to fight someone stealing vaccines. That's a lot of firepower for people who are doing like not like black market vaccines. Like, give them to people who need them, vaccine stealers.
Yeah. Like, something's off here.
There's something more pressing here, because throughout that whole scene, Bucky's like, we gotta get him, we gotta go, and it's like, why?
Yeah.
There's nothing bad happening. Mm-hmm. They've definitely, I really hope they cut something out and they're not just very bad at editing, because it would explain a lot, and it would explain why no one has any motivation to do anything in this show. For
such a long time, it's so unmotivated in almost every regard. So I think that's it for the conjecture and allegedly section of the podcast, which would make a lot of sense.
The conspiracy theory section is over.
Yeah, but non-conspiracy, they were delayed by COVID, and that definitely fucked some things up a bit, but things might have been edited. But regardless, nothing is motivated.
Nothing is motivated. Like, it doesn't make sense that they all went to stop Carly. It really didn't make sense when they broke Zemo out of jail. Even though I thought Zemo was great. Like, Daniel Bruhl crushed it. Zemo had this wonderful energy about him. But, like, you're also at the same time, you're like, you're breaking him out of jail for this? For vaccine theft?
Well, and here's the question. Why? Why did they break him out of jail? Like, because I mean that sincerely. I honestly can't remember why. So much of the scene-to-scene motivation, the exposition laying the pipe of this show, episode to episode, it is just because. And, like, that is the character's motivation, where the first episode, Bucky and Falcon don't hang out. And then they see each other for one scene, and Bucky's like, I'm not allowed to do anything. Leave me alone. Don't call me. I'm going to come because...
Yeah.
Okay, and then they're there. And then it's like, all right, we're all here together. We just met John Walker. We've got to stop the vaccines. I won't. Because. Let's break up. And there's never, and it's just that, like, let's get Zemo. Why? Just because. It is so poorly moved forward.
I say it's worse once Zemo gets there, because they just follow Zemo around. He's like, we're going to Madripoor. We're going to this other European place. You're going to be my assassin. You're going to be this random other villain. And, like, they have no questions. They lose all agency as soon as
We've got to meet
arrives.
the power broker. We don't meet the power broker. We've got to meet Sharon. Sharon will arrange a thing with the power broker. And also there's another underground thing. The Dora Milaje are here. I'm going to talk with them. Everybody sit down and leave the room.
I will say most of the time they don't have motivation. I do understand why they went to Zemo, because he's the only one who has ever known where super soldiers were before. Because he had the book which led to the Winter Soldiers in Civil War.
Fair.
So I think that made sense. That they were like, well, he knows at least something about super soldiers, and we know nothing about super soldiers.
Yeah.
So visiting him at least made sense. Breaking him out doesn't make any sense.
No. But as much as the traditional exposition, like the true story of this show, makes no sense and is poorly motivated, the great understanding that this show has, though, is of the characters themselves inherently. So what moves the plot forward, like why they get Zemo, which you defend a bit more than me, or why they're going to the power broker, is kind of bland and boring and who cares. But stuff like Zemo being truly dedicated to his cause, like when he crushes the super soldier serum and doesn't do the traditional villain thing of, I'm a hypocrite. I'm a guy who's like, I'm going to become a super soldier to stop the super, like I'm
going to become what I hate.
A General Ross thing to be like, but if I was the Hulk, I'd be fucking great at it. Everyone else is dumb except me.
I'm the only one you can trust with superpowers. No, so much respect for Zemo holding to his principles. He saw a super soldier serum, crushed it. He saw a super soldier, he shot it. He had access to 4 more in a van, he blew them up. I don't agree, but damn, son, not a hypocrite.
No. And character shit like that where I'm like, you get this character and you understand this character and their internal motivations in a strong way when the external motivations of the show are lacking. And even like Bucky and Sam, I think, are both written very well. Like the scenes between Sam and Isaiah are fucking phenomenal.
Those are out of the
I need to lay down on the floor. They're so good.
Those are all out of the park. I was really worried after episode 2 we weren't going to see Isaiah again. I was like, is that all we're getting out of Isaiah? So I was so thankful they brought him back for multiple more scenes with Sam. This was so important. Oh my God, yeah. They really thought about Sam's arc and how difficult it is to become Captain America in America.
Yeah.
And I really thought that was something the MCU was going to just tiptoe around. They were not going to acknowledge it. They were going to be like, man, Steve's legacy is a lot. We won't even acknowledge you're black. Like, felt very MCU to do that. MCU lives in this beautiful little fantasy world where there's no racism and there's no homophobia because there's no gay people, apparently.
Right.
None of that bad stuff can happen.
Or I've also seen like a lot of essays kind of breaking down what's happening in modern MCU and problem with some of the comics as well is that when they are encountered, It is not a systemic problem. It is an individual problem. Like the key example being like Peggy Carter is in the military and someone's sexist to her once and she punches them. And she's like, any more questions for a lady? And everyone's like, fuck, she just stopped sexism in the military by being so good. And that's kind of fun, but like it's not sexism, racism, and prejudice as a whole are not individual incidents that are fixed.
The MCU will be like, we have racists, but they're actual Nazis from Hydra. We're like, but you also have like lower tier racists. Come on, guys.
Yeah, but so good in these moments. And again, Isaiah is another one of those things where we get, why are we going to his place? I don't fully understand. Were we moved there in a motivating way? Fuck no. Why are we leaving? Why didn't we hang around? Why didn't we revisit it sooner? No good motivation. But just the glue of it in the moment, in that scene, it's just a beautiful scene study. Like if they just released that scene, no show, no context, I have 100% positive things to say about this experience because it just works in its own little window. It
absolutely does. Now, which scene did you like best? Like meeting him or like the Sam and Isaiah alone scene? Because I really loved Sam and Isaiah alone. It seemed to have more flesh on its bones.
It's hard for me to differentiate because I think they're both terrific, but the one where it's Sam and Isaiah alone is episode 5, which is the best episode of the season and is the closest to flawless.
Stellar episode.
So I was in, and part of the reason why is that it's an all character episode. There is no, we need to go here to do this. It is Bucky and Sam fixing a fucking boat and going to visit Isaiah. And that is it. It is just, let's play in scenes with these characters. Let's not try to lay down why terrorists exist or what this country is doing to that country. What's the geopolitical climate? It is just, how do these two human characters interact? And it all works. So I have a more fondness for episode 5 because of the whole of the episode. But I think they're both great scenes with Isaiah. But you? What do you think?
I'm with the episode 5 one because the episode 5 one, it brought so many interesting things to me, like, and I can't speak for people of color, but as a white person watching it, I'm like, this is bringing in new layers even I haven't thought of. And I consider myself fairly well read, but I can't have the experiences of a black person or a person of color in America. And these scenes were eye-opening. And what I really loved about this scene, especially in episode 5, was it's a story about racism, obviously, because Isaiah's like, I was put in prison because I'm black. We were experimented on because they considered us worthless and they could just throw us away and they'd give the good serums to the white soldiers. Like, obviously a story of racism. And then there's a subtle story of racism inside it, which I absolutely adore that they don't bring attention to, which is he broke out to save his men from a prison POW camp, and then he got sent to prison for defying orders. Steve Rogers broke Bucky out of a prisoner of war camp and got a medal. And there is this incredible subtle parallel of these two men did the exact same thing. They were super soldiers who defied orders and saved their men and brought them home. And Isaiah went to prison and Steve became a national icon. And this to me was like the more powerful story inside the story. So just episode 5 had incredible storytelling ability. I don't know. I have to check who wrote that and directed that particular episode because everything about it, from like the Sam and Bucky conversation about how Bucky didn't think about what the shield would mean to Sam, and then Sam didn't think about what the shield meant to Bucky as his only piece of Steve left. Like,
that was a phenomenal end to this, like, these fun little we're building a boat together moments. And then that huge emotional heart to end it out on.
Yeah, this moment of we're finally talking and we're understanding that we didn't look at this from each other's perspective. Bucky didn't realize what the shield would mean to Sam. Sam didn't realize what the shield meant to Bucky. It was groundbreaking.
And Bucky even apologizing on behalf of Steve as well, to be like, I don't think neither me nor Steve understood what was going. Like, for him to be like, ooh, we didn't think about it.
Definitely, because even in Endgame, you knew that Bucky knew that Steve was doing this, and they definitely talked about the shield. And like, you can just picture them being like, Sam's gonna fucking love it. We're gonna give it to Sam. He's gonna be such a good Captain America. They were probably so hyped up about it. They're like, oh, it's gonna be great. Yeah, no, he'll take good care of it. Won't be any problem. And then they have it to Sam, and he's like, oh boy, this is oh no, maybe I really got to think about it. So when you give someone a gift and they're not immediately jubilant about it, you got to be like, well, but why? I've worked really hard on this present, and then but then you think about it, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack with this present.
There's a lot here. Yeah, Bucky's like, I've been living in Wakanda. It's great there.
Character. That's where this show shines.
Mm-hmm.
I do not care about the global consequences of what's happening on a grander scheme, you know?
No, honestly, I think Carly's not even in episode 5.
And that's why, and I don't mean that as a disrespect to her performance, because I actually think she's doing a very good job with this role. And I actually think it might work as a character, but it's so hard to tell because talking about like the strength of the show's character and the flaw of the show is plot. She is a character who's the exposition dump. Like, she doesn't actually have a lot of personality or a lot going on with her. Anytime she's on screen, there is a lot of like, we're going to New York now. Mama Madani just died. Here's what we're going to do. Brian, you put on the mask. You go to the president's house. It is very like, I am saying the things that are going to happen in this episode. So she doesn't get a lot to work with there. But I think she does a good performance with what she's given.
I think she does a pretty good performance. Yeah, it is very hard to tell because she never gets like a real villain speech because the only time she has long dialogue is when she talks to Sam, basically.
Right.
And she never really gets like long scenes with any of her compatriots or anyone who believes in anything. She's always just like, we're going to go kill some civilians. And they're like, oh, are we?
No one feels like they have faith in her.
Yeah, they don't feel like she talks about how the movement's so big, but everyone who works for her seems to be like, I just want to steal vaccines. We were really good with stealing vaccines.
And to go back to the like allegedly a plot line was deleted from this, a lot of her scenes, the ones where she actually does get to talk a little bit more and give a little bit more character or personality, are all phone calls. It's all shot in singles where she is completely alone. No other actors around, very super close up, so you don't even really get a feel for the sets that she's on or if she's physically anywhere. And it does feel like it was reshoots or trying to patch up some other shit. So she doesn't get a lot of scenes. Even when she does have a scene with someone, she doesn't have a scene partner. She is just delivering it alone on a soundstage that may or may not be a newly scripted reshoot. So that's really tough to deal with as an actor as well.
Yeah, the final episode, I think, was the most glaring when she calls Bucky for some reason, even though she's been talking to Sam the whole show, and she's just in the corner of an alley, and you never even see the full alley. I'm like, okay, so you filmed this way later. This was added in to fill in some space of where you two characters were during this point.
And sometimes it's even incongruous with what she is saying and what else is going on with the show. Because in that final episode, it is like, let's all go to the building. And then she's like, I'm in an alleyway. Don't worry about it. Bucky, what are you doing?
How you doing, Bucky?
How are you?
Just checking in.
Where are you?
And it wasn't a distraction. It was just trying to turn Bucky to her side, a man she hasn't spoken to.
Yeah.
Didn't make any sense.
Yeah, very strange. Very strange. Well, let's take a break in the podcast to thank our second sponsor of today's episode. It is our new friends over at Every Plate.
Every Plate, it's America's best value meal kit, and they absolutely mean that because one meal from Every Plate is the same price as 1 cup of coffee, and that's amazing for a home-cooked meal.
It is insane. It is Every Plate makes dinners that are less expensive and more fulfilling to alternative takeout or delivery. It's bang for your buck, basically, is what you're getting with Every Plate. And who doesn't love a deal?
I love a deal.
And a convenient deal.
I love a convenient deal that doesn't cost me a lot of money and is delicious and delivered to my door.
Yes, because normally deals are inconvenient. Historically speaking, it's like you see a retail store and they're like, we're going to have a deal. Line up in the cold. 3 people will get it. The rest of you will be miserable.
You can get $30 off. It's a mail-in rebate. You need a stamp.
Go
you need
fetch.
A stamp, motherfucker.
You need a stamp. But with Every Plate, it is really just, here is a deal. We ship it to your door. It is convenient. It's going to be great for you. They send it to you because here's what I like. It's easy to follow recipe cards. It's pre-portioned ingredients. You spend less time prepping and cooking, more time enjoying food. And I really like the pre-portioned stuff. And this is also why they can make it such a deal as well. Because so many times I've been like, I want to get all of the ingredients for all the meals that I need this week, but nothing is portioned correctly for what you have to buy at the store. I have extra waste, stuff spoils, stuff gets thrown out. But when you have meals like this with pre-portioned ingredients, not only is it less waste, it also gets the cost down as well, which is partially why it's such a great deal.
I love all that. I also like knowing exactly how much of a thing I need as someone who can't make spaghetti. Because I open a box of spaghetti and I'm like, all of it?
How much?
Half of it?
Some spaghetti? What is the unit of measurement of spaghetti?
It's so hard. And pre-portioned ingredients is so easy. You're just like, relax, put them in a pot, put them on the stove. You got a home-cooked meal for an incredibly reasonable price.
Every Plate. Nothing but love and respect for Every Plate. And if you want to try right now for just $1.99 per meal, plus you get an additional 20% off your next 2 boxes just by going to everyplate.com and entering promo code TFS. $1.99. So once again, try Every Plate for just $1.99 per meal, plus get an additional 20% off your next 2 boxes by going to everyplate.com, everyplate.com, and entering promo code TFS199. And thank you very much, Every Plate, for your support.
Thank you so much, Every Plate.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
And now back to the Falcon
and the Winter Soldier.
The emphasis does help.
It makes it fun to say.
Yeah, it makes it fun to say, and it helps remember what it's called. Now, no,
you
may I?
You may, but then me.
Okay.
You then me.
Were you gonna have a positive or a negative?
I was gonna have a positive.
All right. You know what? Let's break it up. Let's go with your positive.
Hit me up with
Let's
a
go with your
positive.
positive.
I am incredibly compelled by the story of John Walker.
Oh, interesting.
I actually think this is supremely interesting. Like, during just John Walker scenes, I felt like I was watching, like, the best season of Daredevil. Like, it didn't feel like MCU quite, and it didn't feel like Disney Plus. This felt like pure Marvel Netflix top-tier Daredevil. Like, a very conflicted, morally gray area of a man trying to do well and just not succeeding at it. Like, genuinely doesn't want to be a bad man. Like, he wants to help people and is just so bad at it, and really goes on a redemption arc and is trying his best but makes huge mistakes. And I'm not saying I like think he's a hero at the end, but I was oddly compelled. I thought Wyatt Russell did a great performance. I was all over this.
I'm with you for part of this. I 100% agree that Wyatt Russell was the correct casting and absolutely nails this role. As a performance, love it. I think he nails this role. And again, character, his relationship with Battlestar, their friendship, I 100% buy in every regard. It is on the screen beautifully. Him as a flawed figure who's in over his head. I fully get that. I don't like the ending and where they end up with him. I don't like the and then he fights alongside Bucky and Falcon and then Captain America ? I don't think the show knew how to end his storyline, and it just kind of is redemption ? But I don't feel like it's earned in any way, and it doesn't belong there, and they're clearly leading to him coming back as a villain or antagonistic character in some regard. And I just don't buy this, I'm back and I'm kind of good now. Maybe I have a DIY shield, which you watched me make for 4 minutes and then I threw it away.
I'm actually kind of okay with it. Because them working with him and joking with him, no, absolutely not. They watched him murder a man and then beat the shit out of him. Like fighting side by side against the same person for a half second, sure, if you know that they're trying to kill someone. But Bucky joked with him near the end and stuff and pulled him out of the way of some rubble. That wouldn't have happened. But he went on trial and they let him go, even though he clearly did a murder. He probably should have gone to jail. But at the same time, I did think his redemption was actually quite interesting. They either go after Carly, the man who killed my best friend, or save these people on the truck. And I really thought he was going to go after Carly.
Right.
So the fact that he dropped the shield and decided finally not to be Captain America and grabbed the truck, I just found that very interesting and compelling. He did a truly heroic act. He did a truly self-sacrificing, selfless act by saving the people on the truck. which was like a bigger moment than Bucky got in the finale. Bucky didn't get to do shit in the finale, and he got this big save the cat moment.
He's just kind of like wandering around on his own on a motorcycle, and I don't know if that's reshoots or what's happening there, but that feels a little strange.
Yeah, I think his story was so interesting when I think about it in the way of like, Sam was offered the shield, and Sam said no for now. It's like, it's too much weight. There's too much baggage with it. And he said yes enthusiastically without realizing how much weight it came with, and it crushed him. And so it's just these two men kind of dealing with how they accept the shield or not. And when I think about it in parallels, I find it so interesting. And I think the performance was amazing. And I can't believe how bad he looks in that helmet.
That helmet does not fit his head whatsoever.
Notion.
I don't know if it's...
He's a handsome man.
Wyatt Russell's incredibly handsome. And in this outfit, he is unfuckable. And it has nothing to do with the character traits of the character. It is just something has gone horribly wrong with you wearing this outfit.
I really hope they designed it on purpose to make him more villainous, to be like, you look evil in the Captain America outfit, whereas Steve looked handsome. Because you're such a good-looking man, to the point where I knew Wyatt Russell was in this show, and we watched episode 1, and it's the end is the reveal of the new Captain America. And I was like, oh, that must be Wyatt Russell. And you were like, that can't possibly be Wyatt Russell. He's playing a different character. Look at that man's chin. Where did it go?
I rewatched the video of that episode. At the end of that episode, I was like, that's not Wyatt Russell, hon. There's no way that's Wyatt Russell.
And I get why you said that, because I wasn't even sure. But I thought he was playing U.S. Agent, and I'm like, well, that's U.S. Agent.
No, but that person's unfuckable. That's not Wyatt Russell.
That's an unattractive man. That's an accounting nerd in a Captain America outfit. But it was Wyatt Russell, who I think did a great performance.
Agree with you, great performance. Yeah. I do want to get into a bigger picture problem that this kind of bleeds into with the U.S. agent / John Walker Captain America character. And I think it's a problem that this show has, and maybe I'm not, maybe as a white male, and not even an American, a Canadian, maybe I'm not one to poke holes in this plot line. But this show, generally speaking, with the Isaiah storyline and Sam becoming Captain America, has so much to say about Black America and about that experience and the weight and pressure and resentment of a country that was, as the show even says, built by you and then hates you for it. There is so much going on in this show. And then sometimes this show suffers from a little bit of both sides-ism, where they're just like, yes, Black people are oppressed, and that is bad. But also, what if the cop who kills people and is recorded by cell phones is doing their best? And it doesn't actually have a lot to say about that. And I find it highly problematic that in the same show where Sam is profiled while leaving the house of a denigrated Black Captain America who was experimented on and demeaned by his own country, and they're like, this is being Black in America. And then in that same show, and they have so much to be like, blonde hair, blue eyes, the white guy is the star. And in that same show, that dude, a representation of U.S. authority, extrajudicially murders a man while crowds of people recorded on cell phones, and he receives a slap on a wrist on a trial and then is able to freelance contract with the same government afterwards. And it's about to be like, look how sad he is about this, though. And I think that is kind of a gross perspective, because there's a time and place for like these explorations of villainy, to be like, sometimes you take the wrong path and things go wrong. And this isn't the time and place for both sides-ism. To be like, have you thought about he was trying his best? No, fuck him.
He killed
him. He's the villain. Bucky doesn't joke with him. Fuck him forever. He's the absolute worst. He got a slap on the wrist for killing a man publicly in front of everyone. Like, it is, I think it's a really bad look.
I get what you're saying, because they could almost be saying something about that, but they're not. Like a cop figure killed a man on video and got away with it. But the show's not saying anything about that. He doesn't get a slap on the wrist, cut to Bucky and Sam. Can you believe he didn't go to prison?
Yeah.
Like, at no point do Bucky and Sam say, that guy didn't get enough of a punishment.
If Sam at some point had a line where he said, like, I can't take up the mantle of Captain America because if I make that mistake that he made, I don't get a slap on the wrist. You will never see me ever again. I'm Isaiah.
I will be disappeared like Isaiah was.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But they never make that commentary
never...
to be like, a black person isn't allowed to make the same mistakes that a white person is allowed to make in the same role and in the same fucking costume with the same shield. And they have nothing to say about that. And I just think it's a really gross both sidesism. And same thing with Sam's final speech to be like, yes, you, the politicians, are bad. And maybe the terrorists are bad. But maybe you're both good. Everyone kills people. It is a weird, I don't know what the point of Sam's final speech is, except it really does feel like, what if you stopped to think about how you're killing people, and they stopped to think about how they're killing people? And then, I don't know the answer. Bye! It's weird. It's weird, and I find it upsetting.
I think there was like only one line of Sam's speech that I didn't like, which was like, yes, she came here to kill you, but for a good reason. I'm like, you shouldn't kill people. But some parts of his speech were so compelling, though. Like, I'm just a man who's trying, what did he say? I'm trying to do my best, or I just believe in myself, or I believe we can be better. Yeah, good lines like that. Good lines like
trying to be better, I think, was the crux of the end
crux
of it.
Good, very incredible points of the people you're affecting are not in the room with you while you make decisions about their lives. So he has good things to say. The opening was bad. I think everything after the opening about Carly.
Right.
It's hard to start your speech with this person who just tried to kill you had a point. Who put you in a truck and lit the truck on fire.
Yeah.
Like seconds ago.
Yeah.
Just a moment ago.
Blew up buildings of people earlier this week.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's not great that you're going to put them into camps where they're going to get sick, but that storyline's been cut, so we don't even know that that's what's going to happen to them.
Yeah, and that's clearly what's happening. People are getting sick in refugee
At the camps, I guess.
Because otherwise,
no one else is getting sick.
Yeah, and it doesn't see, and no one else is getting sick, and it does sincerely, with the scenes that are cut, seem like the refugee camps aren't going bad. Like, I didn't even understand that Madani got sick at a refugee camp.
Well, especially because tuberculosis takes so long to kill you.
Yeah.
Like, you have to get that, like, a year and a half earlier, don't you? Doesn't it take a really long time?
It takes a long time, and there's a lot of very accessible treatments for it, apparently. I was looking it up. But still, it's just something where they don't show the bad refugee camps. And I'm not saying refugee camps are great, but from what they show us on the show, it does seem like nations are back and they all have collectively agreed that we're going to do our best to make this right and are putting all of their resources into making it right. And Carly is a character who's just like, fuck you, it's no good though. But we never know why it's no good.
Yeah, they will say it a few times, but you never get a feel for it. Like, she's like, because on paper, the idea of a villain who wants things to go back the way it was before during the snap, you're like, well, that's when half the people were dead. So you're a villain. You want things to be that way. But what actually she wants is the borders were open because people needed people for jobs. So you could just get a job anywhere, you could get an apartment anywhere. Life was a little bit easier when people were snapped. And that's what she wants again. But I'm like, there's no way to do that. The people are back. So unless your plan is to kill half the population again, there's no, and also we never get a sense of that. You've said it like twice, but we didn't get a feel for it. And the only place we even saw that looked like a refugee camp or that I thought was a refugee camp was like that building when they're trying to find the funeral.
I thought that was a church.
I don't know what it was. It seemed like a place people live though. Like there was a school in it.
I mean, sometimes churches have schools.
It seemed awful big for a church.
I guess.
So, like, I don't know what anything is. Like, show me a really bad refugee camp, and I'll be like, she's got a great point.
Right.
Because even when she goes to visit Madani, who's dying, they're the only ones in the room. Mm-hmm. It's not overcrowded. It's not, like, full of sick people who are dying. It's just the two of them.
Yeah.
Nah, nothing.
So it does make it seem like she stole a truck full of vaccines for like one lady who had tuberculosis at a church.
And killed 2 guards who were guarding the vaccine.
Yeah, it just
for one lady.
doesn't quite track.
It doesn't track at all. But
So I don't think she was right when Sam's like, what if both of you were right?
But to get back to Sam, though, that whole final episode for Sam was so good, though, except for maybe that speech, as you said.
Right.
Like, for most of the speech, I actually really sincerely liked. When he showed up in that new costume.
The new costume slaps.
Oh, my God.
The new costume fucking slaps. It's perfect. Absolutely perfect.
The Wakandans have always had a hit.
I am surprised it didn't have like some Black Panther-y, I absorb kinetic energy, which is why I'm not a super soldier, but I can now be Captain America type of shit.
It felt like it was vibranium, but not to the energy absorbing thing, which is like Shuri's technology. That's not a vibranium thing.
Fair enough.
So like I think it's vibranium, but not cool energy explodey stuff. So yeah, but he looks amazing. Just like, I'm Captain America. Hey, it's Black Falcon. No, that's Captain America. It's just,
that was good.
So when they changed the title card at the end.
Changing the title card was beautiful.
It was all so exciting.
I did not expect the costume to get me that much because he's always been Falcon. I've seen him spread his wings before, and I'm like, oh yeah, you kind of look like a Falcon.
Oh, you kind of
yeah, that dude, I get it. I get the name. You look like a Falcon. But in that color scheme and in that look, when he spread his wings, I actually whispered aloud to myself. I went, oh, that's fucking majestic. I said that. That came out of me, and I didn't expect it to. I don't know why, but it left my body. It was fucking majestic. When he protected that dude on the bridge by holding up the shield and wrapping the wings around himself, that was fucking majestic.
It was amazing. And I think the slight difference is, I haven't analyzed them to know for sure, but I think the Falcon wings looked like a bird. And I think the Captain America wings look like an angel. They're much bigger. They wrap around more. They shoot up a little bit more and then back down. They're more angel-like.
Yeah, there's something about, it's a different angle. You're right, it's a different angle.
It's a different energy. Like when he comes down with Carly holding her in her arms, I'm like, well, that's just like a fucking majestic angel of the Lord coming down shot. You look awesome.
Well, he has different like jets now. So, like, he landed in that scene when he was holding Carly. Part of the reason why I thought the same thing, he looked like an angel, is because he glided to the ground softly, which he's never done before.
Oh, yeah, he always just kind of drops.
Yeah, and even...
rolls.
He rolls. In the behind the scenes with the stunt guy, Guy De Silva, I think is his name, who does both Black Panther and Falcon. And he talked about, like, the inspiration for how Falcon lands. And it's a parachuter. Because he's a glider. He's not Tony Stark. He doesn't have blasters coming out of everything. He glides, and when the wings come in, he tucks and then hits the ground and kind of has to like have momentum forward. But this was the first time that he had like counter jets. So his wings came in and he still continued to maintain control like a Tony Stark or like a true flyer.
Oh, because that's how he got the truck to push back up, even though he doesn't have super strength. The wings were doing all of it with their better little jets.
Yeah. So he's just got more and better jets now. But it's the first time that he like lands in a controlled fashion.
So he got more control when he became Captain America.
Yeah.
It was all so good. And now, very stupid joke because, you know, he should be Captain America. It's the title. It's the name. But at the same time, how is he not Uncle Sam? He's an actual uncle. His name is Sam.
Yeah.
I don't know the history of who Uncle Sam actually is. It's probably bad, knowing America.
Yeah, I'm going to guess it is.
But his name's Sam.
His name is Sam. His family, his nephews will joke about that. That's a joke for the family.
All right, that's a joke for like the end credits when Bucky comes with cake.
Yeah,
and they all sell a lot of fish.
Bucky with cake, that's a whole mood. I loved that.
Oh, that was nice. Bucky made connections again.
Bucky smiling was delightful.
Making connections like his therapist told him he had to. Making actual amends instead of just sending people to jail, which was a very fine line that Sam really helped him find the difference between.
Yeah.
Because the other things he did in therapy were he sent old Hydra people back to jail, but he hadn't actually helped anyone. Mm-hmm. And so in this final episode, the only few things that Bucky got to do were really nice, where he finally told the old man, I killed your son, and he helped him find closure. And I didn't realize it until the moment when he like saves all the people in the burning truck and one of them thanks him. And I'm like, man, through the entire MCU, I think that's the first person Bucky saved because he's been brainwashed for so much of this.
Yeah. And it's very rare that someone says a thank you as well, so that's also big.
I mean, you get some thank yous after big things, like, you know, the Chitauri invade New York.
Right.
Everyone's like, thank you, Captain America, thank you, Iron Man. But you don't get a lot of thanks in the field when you're just like fighting people far away, when you're doing like a Thanos fight. Not a lot of thank yous there.
Fair.
So him actually helping people was very nice as well. So they found arcs for them in the end, but so many episodes didn't include them having any character development that you're like, oh, I guess there is none for like 3 episodes.
Yeah.
Because for about 3 episodes, this became the Zemo show.
Yeah, it really did.
I liked Zemo a lot, but I also like Sam and Bucky.
Great performance, fun character, hell of a look, great coats.
Hell of a look. I love his old ass butler. Adore that. His chemistry with Sam and Bucky was also delightful. Like agreeing with Sam about the Trouble Man soundtrack is it's a masterpiece of African American history or something. And Sam's like, you're not allowed to say that, but you're not wrong. Yeah. The chemistry was incredible with that guy. I wish they had found a better reason to put him in the story.
Yeah. I fully agree. I hope we see him again, and I'm sure we will, because they're doing something at that raft.
You can't wait for more raft stuff.
There's for sure going to be more raft stuff. Like I was rewatching Civil War earlier today, and there's the scenes at the raft. And I was even mentioning to Diana, I'm like, they mentioned that they were sending Zemo to the raft, and they've established the raft, and it's such a cool set and a cool location and a cool idea. And there's been so many interesting breakouts and stuff like that in the comics that like this in the middle of the ocean prison is definitely going to be where some hot shit goes down.
I can see that. I mean, I feel like Julia Louis-Dreyfus is like creating like a Thunderbolts team.
Of like just like hiring freelancers.
Yeah, hiring freelancers who are only like on the cusp of evil. So like, John Walker, Zemo, kind of perfect members of the team.
Right.
Although Zemo will probably try to kill John Walker because he's a super soldier, and he'll be like, nope. I've got principles.
Yeah, a little bit of Suicide Squaddy in some regards. Yeah,
you got to keep Zemo on a leash.
Yeah, does a murder on TV, gets a job. Real gross storyline for John Walker. But let's talk about the other character who has a banana storyline that makes no sense, goes nowhere, and I think we're furious about, which is Sharon Carter.
Sharon Carter is legit a bad guy?
There is
what?
No justification for this whatsoever.
This came out of literal nowhere. Because when you find out, we meet her in Madripoor, and she's like, I sell stolen art now. And then at the end of that episode, she got into a limousine, and she said something like, we have work to do. And I'm like, okay, so she's secretly still CIA. This was all cover. Because, of course, it's Peggy Carter's aunt or niece who like inspired Steve to do the right thing in Civil War.
Who said the "No, you move" speech?
No, you move, and that's a thing she believed in. She held a gun to fucking Rumlow's head and said, "We're not launching those ships." In Winter Soldier, like this Sharon Carter.
She believes. Like, on the hierarchy of people who believe in the cause, like hardcore believe in just like true sacrifice everything for freedom and good. It is like Steve Rogers, Peggy Carter, Sharon Carter.
100%. And for this woman to suddenly be like, I also want power and money, or I only want power and money?
I like art? Question mark?
Fancy clothes are nice? Question mark?
What a waste of a character that they've written this into.
Like, this would be very interesting for any other character.
Yeah.
For a character who wasn't Peggy Carter's niece, or a character who was resentful that she was Peggy Carter's niece. But none of that has ever been written into Sharon's character.
A chaotic lawful character, of which there are just fucking dozens in the MCU. Everett Ross, Darkstone Ross, either of the evil white dudes named Ross. Like, it is a pretty... Who else would like Claw? Bring him back. Fucking whoever. There's so many options here.
It's... and I saw like a bunch of tweets that were like, this girl boss is getting it. I'm like, no, this is a complete character assassination.
It's an unmotivated heel turn.
And I mean, everything's unmotivated in this show, so it shouldn't be that surprising. But this affects her character so much.
Yeah.
Like Bucky and Sam going to Madripoor for no reason, it doesn't affect who Sam and Bucky are. But Sharon Carter being the power broker, just straight up murdering Batroc and trying to kill Carly. Or no, she does kill Carly.
Yeah.
And murdering Carly. Like, these are huge character moments you can't come back from.
No, not at all. Not at all. She's a ruthless murderer who steals and sells government secrets for money now because she likes nice things. That's the new rewrite of her character, just out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere.
And the motivation they give her in canon, she has that whole scene where at the time when we were watching that scene, we thought it was all a cover. And she's infiltrating something for the CIA or somebody or whoever, wherever. And she's telling Sam, she's like, oh, well, you guys got pardons for what you did in Civil War, but not me. Okay.
Why?
Why didn't you, though?
Bucky got a fucking pardon. He's the Winter Soldier. And Cap wasn't like, give Sharon a pardon?
Timeline-wise, here is what we've seen of Sharon Carter's life. She goes to her aunt's funeral, says, no, you move, gives the fucking speech that inspires Cap. Then is like, here's a shield, Falcon, here's your wings. Then, crime. The world's... Oh. It is so infuriating.
It is... And, oh my God, and so many people were on Cap's side. Like, how could she have not gotten a pardon if she wanted it? Talk to Fury, talk to Tony Stark. Like, you must know so many people. You don't like crime. You're not a woman who likes crime.
And if there were no borders during the snap, what were you getting what are you on the run? Like, I don't understand. The whole thing with the flag smashers were like, there was no previous structure. Like, could you not just have walked across the borders that didn't exist to wherever you wanted to do whatever?
I mean, she kind of started the flag smashers. Maybe that's why she was mad. She was like, I want those borders back down. I liked walking into France every day to get baguettes and then walking back out of France the next day. I don't know what her goals were. It's very disappointing. It's like the opposite of how I feel about Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Yes.
It is the exact opposite feeling of like excitement and like you're so cool and oh my God, you're a badass. It's just like, oh, you suck.
And plot-wise serves the same function, which is kind of dumb, that we have two different like boss female characters who are like, let's assemble a team. But we just saw that. We're seeing that. Why would you double down on it in this show? And
also, to go to, like, crossing a line, like, you know, she kind of kills Batroc and Carly, who were, like, evil, I guess, but you still shouldn't murder people. But also, she hired Batroc to be there, and he straight up tries to murder Sam.
Yeah.
So she hired a Sam assassin.
Yeah. And doesn't try to stop him at all.
No, not in any way. She's like, go bleep.
She melts the face of that super soldier, too, with acid or some shit.
Melted the shit out of that guy.
Yeah, and even at that point, we were like, I think we've really crossed the threshold for Sharon Carter.
Because I think you could have just put, like, a little electricity bomb on that guy and knocked him out. But she was like, no, I gotta melt his skin off. That's the best way to save these people.
Woof. This is a mess. This is one of the biggest messes that this show has going on.
That is a very big mess. I would say a bigger mess to me personally, because I'm not all that attached to Sharon Carter. But my biggest mess of the show is, where is Steve Rogers?
He's on the moon?
What?
Question mark?
Happened to Steve Rogers?
He's on the moon. Don't worry about it. People seem to think he's on the moon.
It's infuriating. This refusal to acknowledge what he is. Is he dead? Is he time traveling? Is he on the moon?
Yeah.
Where
is he just retired in a nice house that him and Peggy used to have together?
But like they really need to explain why he's not in the story. Why don't either of these men go to him for advice? Why don't him and Bucky live on the same street and they're still best friends, but Steve's old? Because Isaiah Bradley's old and he's getting around just fine. He's still throwing cigarette cases through walls and picking up heavy plants. I'm sure Steve is managing.
Right.
I'm sure he can still give you
Steve is older.
He's older, but he was very lucid on the bench.
Right.
On the bench?
Lucid. Physically, I don't think he was as prime as Isaiah, but lucid.
And to just be like, and so you can't tell if Sam and Bucky are mourning him or just ignoring him.
Yeah.
And that's a big distinction.
Yeah.
for two guys whose relationship revolves around this man. He was their buffer friend.
Yeah.
Steve was the buffer friend.
And they got to get on with their life, granted, but you still text the buffer friend once in a while, or
You probably text him more. You're like, Sam's being a real dick about this shield. And Steve would be like, it's his shield. He can do whatever he wants with it. But no, he's on the moon, I guess. The moon actually is the only explanation I would accept. He's not dead, so we're not sad about it. But we can't text him because he's on the moon.
right.
So I guess he's on the moon.
Maybe he's just laying low because Sharon's mad at him. Maybe that's Sharon's evil turn. Is that after all the Thanos thing, she heard about the time travel and she was like, Uncle Roger, or whatever Peggy called him in front of her. She put together that she has kissed her Uncle Roger in the future.
Shit. It made her go bad.
In the past future, her Uncle Roger kissed her.
Oh man, she's like, if I made out with my uncle, then I'm a bad guy. There's no turns.
She snapped mentally. She couldn't handle the time travel uncle kissing that she's done.
We're making jokes, but it makes more sense than anything else we've come up with.
It legitimately does.
All right.
Because if she grew up around Steve, Peggy would have to call him a different name because Steve would be like, you can't call me Steve Roger in front of her. Also, probably anyone ever. But if that was Uncle Raj.
Uncle Raj. I like that he's not even going by Steve.
No, he's got to go by. He's going by Roger. Playing it safe.
He'd respond to Roger, so that makes sense. Yeah, that's. But then there's also the debate about whether he went to this timeline or a different timeline, or
yeah,
whether
which is
he even,
all a mess completely. But it makes sense for Sharon to snap.
It's okay. We figured it out.
Yeah, and
We
that's where
solved
Steve
it.
is. Steve is like, ooh.
Oh no! Yay! To the moon with me.
If anyone, Buck, if anyone asks, tell them I'm on the moon.
But where will you be really?
I'm on the moon.
No. You don't get to know.
I'm on the moon.
I'm on the moon. Have a little book. I already wrote in half of it.
Because I think what is
It's a half-filled book.
a used book.
Star Wars.
Thanks for the fucking used book. The used notebook. It's a moleskin, which is nice, but it's a used moleskin.
I can't even read most of these things you crossed out. Trouble, man?
Used moleskin. I also think that it's very distracting that they've done that because clearly the reason that they actually have done this is that Marvel/Disney desperately would like Chris Evans at some point for a cameo. I'm not saying for a movie, but for a cameo, a taste, a nugget. Somewhere in some movie, they are desperate to get him back for the right price and are constantly negotiating with his agent to make that happen. But they don't know if or when they will ever get the yes. And if they do, then that needs to be the next movie that they fucking make it happen. So they can't be like, oh, Steve's hanging out actually in the old Avengers mansion because what if a movie needs to go there and then we have to write out of that? But if they just say nothing forever, the second the paperwork is signed, they could be like, he's in Guardians 8. I don't know. Whatever the fuck Chris said yes to. He's on that planet now. We'll get him in. So I feel like there is that level of corporate desperation about the script.
That makes a lot of sense when you say it that way, because we even recently had a very long conversation, not to get into it again too deeply, but about how the MCU ends. Because eventually the MCU has to end. They got to reboot it. And when the MCU ends...
Part of the story is the end.
Part of the story is the end. You want to bring back Evans, RDJ, for like the last MCU thing.
Yeah.
So, but you can't do that if you establish Cap is dead or something, or on the moon, or somewhere else, because you want to be able to place him wherever you need to place him.
Yeah.
When that final thing comes.
And there will someday be, we were talking about this off air recently, that someday there will be like the final MCU movie. As much as we all, and in the media and on Twitter and fans of these movies will talk to be like, when are they going to bring X-Men in and this and that? It still expires. There's going to be an end date, and it'll probably be like 10 or 20 years from now. Like there's several phases left, unless the unthinkable of like 5 box office bombs. Like Marvel just hits the tanker, everything blows, and then they pull the plug.
They try to make Fantastic Four, and they're like, oh, it's impossible.
It's impossible.
It's impossible
It
to
ruins
make
everyone.
an FF movie.
So unless something remarkably terrible happens with the MCU, it's 10 to 20 years, but someday it ends, and there will be one final fucking hurrah that will even if it's not good, be the biggest thing in cinematic history forever. Like,
Yeah,
if
'cause-
Endgame can be as big as it is to be like, we're kind of changing how we do things, whatever 10 or 20 years it is down the road to be like, actually, every actor's gone. We're scrapping all of it.
We're recasting everybody.
Disney sold the rights to the Marvel stuff, or a company changed hands, or something big.
Yeah, I got goosebumps when we talked about it because you have to because like when you realize, yeah, it does have to end, and it'll be the biggest thing in cinematic history.
Yeah. It'll be bananas.
It'll be crazy.
Whew. What else you got for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier? I feel like I've got a lot of what I needed out of my system.
I don't have much more. Like things I liked. I liked Bucky Sam therapy. It really gave them a place to go. If Steve was wrong about you, he was wrong about me was a very, very powerful line.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So some parts of this, they really got the character beats. And like you just wish they could get the whole. I think my last minor pet peeve, and it's kind of an unfair pet peeve, but I'll say it anyway. I don't think when you get to be a super soldier, you get fighting skills. Because all these people, like Carly and her gang, they were just like protester refugees. They weren't soldiers. And they're as good as fighting as Bucky and John Walker, who are the best fighters in the entire world.
I would say they're as good at fighting as Batroc, a man who's not a super soldier, but can hand fight Captain America, which is, I would say, the highest level of ability to fight.
That is pretty fucking amazing.
When you are so good as a human man, you can fight super soldier Captain America,
And you
Steve
don't
Rogers
have-
Captain America.
And you don't have vibranium.
Yeah, and you've got you're a dude who showed up in a shirt.
You got a shirt and you like to leap. And
Yeah.
you're like, I'm going to fight Captain America and pretty much win.
It was good to see George St. Pierre back as Batroc.
I loved seeing that guy as Patrick, but I'm not done complaining about this.
Sorry.
But I don't want shitty fight scenes, but I don't think these people should be able to fight this good because you don't learn martial arts by getting a super soldier serum. And if you're both super soldiers, then whoever is the better fighter should win so fast. Like, it's like if I fought someone with my strength, you both have the same strength now.
Right.
So you shouldn't know martial arts. You can't do a spinny kick just because you're strong now. You got to practice those.
Right.
Spinny kicks are hard.
And in fact,
Carly does like parkour and shit.
yeah, and in fact, if you miss a spinny kick and you have super strength, all you've done is yeeted yourself across the fucking room. Because like me and you do martial arts, you've had that human feeling, I'm sure, of where you miss the pad or you miss a kick.
Oh yeah, you're falling for like days.
Yes.
It feels like.
Because if you want to kick the air, you can kick the air and pull it back and land properly. But if you think you're about to connect and you go to follow through and you don't, it takes a lot of muscle training to not yeet yourself into the wall.
Yeah, so it bothered me that they were good at fighting, and I don't want to see shitty fights, but I would have liked to have seen, because they were always outnumbering Bucky and Sam and John,
Yeah.
if they had some kind of like techniques of like, we go 2 at a time, or we go 3 at a time, or we have like strategies because they are so much better fighters than we are. So it just bothered me that Sam and John and Bucky would frequently be losing against people who should have no fighting skills whatsoever. And that being said, the best fight was probably Sam and Bucky versus John. Because all 3 of those fuckers had great fighting skills and they choreographed the hell out of it. So it's probably my favorite fight. But overall, the fights were like iffy good. They went up and down. But I don't think you get martial arts skills when you get a super soldier serum. And it bothers me.
I fully agree.
You got nunchuck skills.
You would get maybe... You get nunchucks. We all agree you get nunchuck
We all
skills.
agree nunchuck
Your punches and kicks are normal, but you get nunchuck skills inherently with the super soldiers.
That's part of the 5G in the serum.
Oh.
Yeah, you don't get COVID and you get nunchuck skills.
Damn, I'll take it.
They don't tell you that.
I'll take it.
It's true.
I'll fuck with some nunchucks. I won't mess with John Walker's terrible homemade shield.
No.
I don't know how long he thought that was going to last.
I think it lasted like 1 punch from a super soldier and it was dented.
Dented considerably.
Dented very well. Yeah.
It did more than nothing, but not as much as any real thing.
No, he could have just brought a gun.
Yeah, a gun would have been better. And I think would have differentiated him as like, I'm the Cap who uses a gun. Which is very strange.
Yeah, because Steve didn't really use guns very much. And Sam has broken a gun out every now and then, but it's rare.
Sam has guns.
Sam has guns,
Yeah.
but not in this show, really.
I think you might be right. Yeah, I don't really recall seeing the guns in this show.
It really was more like Redbird does anything he needs.
Yeah, they tried to really like Tony Stark him up to be like, I'm secondhand removed from violence, so I'm still the hero. Don't worry about it.
But my drones will kill you.
Because in all the movies, he's firing Uzis like a motherfucker.
Yeah, they pop out of his hands in a really cool way.
Yeah. So he's shooting a lot of bullets in the movies.
To be fair, in the movies, he's fighting like Hydra, and you're like, fill them with bullets. Fill those Hydra fucks with bullets. But when you're fighting like terrorists who have kind of a okay reason, who who are like running away and not actively trying to kill you, iffy.
Yeah. What if both sides are right?
It doesn't have a clear message some of the times.
No. Well, mixed bag. Mixed bag. Great performances, though. We both agree on that.
It's weird. I'm like, it's a mixed bag. It was up and down.
Mm-hmm.
I hope they make a sequel. I still want more.
You know what? This might be a good, quick, like, final beat to end on, because to reiterate something we talked about during WandaVision, which is it's so weird to think about this show now and about what Disney Plus is doing and what they did with WandaVision and now this, that traditionally we think of the mark of a successful show being a show that gets a second season or a next season. But I think the purpose of these is to never have a second season.
It seems to be build up for movies.
Yeah, and constantly experiment and try new stuff and build up to movies. And for better or worse of the actual like content of these series, WandaVision being the better and this being the worse, for lack of a better word, but I don't want to be that hard on it, but there's only two. But for better or worse, no matter how it plays out, I think that is a really fun and experimental approach to streaming television and to having this all in one connected universe. To be like, we don't have to go for 7 seasons. Like, we don't have to outstay our welcome. We can do a thing and we can move over to a different medium. Like, we can have Scarlet Witch introduced in an Avengers movie. We can have her have a TV show, and we can have her end in a Doctor Strange movie. We can start with a Captain America movie. We can move over to the Falcon and Winter Soldier. And now, reportedly, Captain America 4 is starring Sam Wilson. So he's moving back to the movies and changing the movie titles.
It's almost like they can do whatever the fuck they want to do. And they are.
And a lot of companies can and use it to make no interesting creative decisions. And it's really impressive to me, and I think really fun that they're doing something interesting and something slightly outside of the box creatively.
It is outside of the box. Yeah, every other company would do a lesser show that would do Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is a great show some of the time, but like a show you don't need to watch with a way lower budget with characters you've never heard of. Or maybe one character you've heard of, a la Coulson.
Yeah.
So most things are Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But this is Marvel movies, but longer.
Yeah.
And just as important, but you don't need a second movie. Not everyone gets a second movie. Hey, Hulk.
And that's fine.
You only got that one.
You're better hanging around as a supplement.
You're an ensemble man.
You just want a taste. Doctor Strange, looking at you too, but we'll see how that other one goes. Well, I think that's going to be it for the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Let's go in for the close, where we ask the final question of what would you change? So now that we've discussed everything, what would you change about this if you could change anything? But before we do ask that final question, we want to thank our third wonderful sponsor of today's episode. It is Gabi Insurance.
It is Gabi. Gabi literally stands for Get a Better Insurance, and that's what they want you to do.
I love that. I love that they're just like, here's what's up. Get a better insurance. Do it. That's the name of the company. Just get it done.
Hey, you need a better insurance for your car and home.
Yeah, because we deserve better. We all deserve better, and getting better insurance with Gabi means getting a better price for the same insurance coverage, because what they are is they are the one true comparison platform with real rates. They give you an apples-to-apples comparison of your current coverage with 40 of the top insurance providers like Progressive, Nationwide, and Travelers, all in one place.
Yeah, and it's not just kind of like a vague quote. You give them your current insurance information to get started, and they will compare it and give you quotes for the exact same coverage that you currently have, but probably cheaper, hopefully. And it's free to use. Absolutely free.
Yeah. So definitely go on there and check it out, because I was playing around on there, just kind of like seeing what's up. And the easy comparison and easy, like quick getting quotes and seeing, what you're overpaying for with your current insurance provider. It's so smooth and easy. And it's important to check it out every once in a while because I think we've all fallen into this trap in life, and I know I have, which is why I think this is a great service, is that maybe something was a great deal at the time you got it. Ooh. And we've all had that where we're like, we did all of the shopping around. I took notes on notes. I've got duotangs and cabinets filled with the notes that I took, and I found the exact perfect thing. And that was 6 years ago. And what was the best option then is not necessarily the best option today. So it's worth checking it out again, updating it, and seeing, because Gabi customers save $961 per year on average. And they'll never sell your info, so no annoying spam or robocalls.
Yeah, and we're two very different people because you're like, what if you got a good deal 6 years ago? And I'm like, a good deal 6 years ago, I probably just get whatever insurance my mom had. Like, I'm just a referral kind of person. I'm like, what do you have? I'll get that. And I'm dumb, and you need an app like Gabi so you can compare and find actual good insurance because $961 per year is a lot of money.
A lot of money. So check it out. Put your policy to the test. Get a better insurance with Gabi. It's totally free to check and there's no obligation. So go to Gabi.com/TFS. That's GABI.com/TFS. Gabi.com/TFS. It stands for Get a Better Insurance, so it should be easy to remember. Gabi.com/TFS. Thank you, Gabi, for your support.
Thank you so much, Gabi.
And then the final thing before we go in for What Would You Change, we'll remind you as we do every week, and you can skip forward if you've already done it, which is follow, subscribe, rate, review, do all the free stuff on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your fine podcasts. It helps support this show. It helps us get discovered by new listeners. I know every podcast tells you to do this. There's a reason, because it is legitimately, between that and people sharing this podcast on their social media like Twitter or Facebook, those are the only ways podcasts get found, really.
It's the only ways. We want to see our names on those charts, and we need your reviews and your ratings to do it. So get your butts over there. If you haven't done it already, we'd really appreciate a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. And tell us we're nice.
Tell us we're nice.
Tell us we're nice.
We want to hear about how we're nice. And if you want to, once you've done that, that's a free way to support the podcast. If you want to support the podcast monetarily, you can get cool bonuses for doing it over on Patreon, where you can chip in as little as $1 a month or as much as you can afford. And at every given level, you get cool bonuses. At the hero level of patron, you get an exclusive episode of this podcast every single month just for our patrons. We've been doing video game movies this month. We did Warcraft last week. We're doing Mortal Kombat next week on the public. So our Patreon exclusive was Double Dragon, keeping the video game movie energy going. And we have some fun conversations about yeeting magical objects to the moon.
We do. And also my love of Mark Dacascos.
Dacascos is great.
I love him. Only the strong.
That's an exclusive over on the Patreon just for hero level patrons. And when you do sign up, you get a cool nickname from Diana, and you get
it is cool.
It's very cool. And you get immediate access to the back catalog of all the 60 plus Patreon exclusive episodes that we've done. So you got a lot of listening waiting for you over there at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That's patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And now, the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change?
My biggest change is probably fixing the original script. I really need Carly to be more of a villain because everyone's so unmotivated to do everything they do. And I think if Carly had actual villainous schemes that they had to stop, this would fix a lot of things. So right off the top, Torres, Sam's friend, gets like beat up a little by Carly. I think he needs to be much more injured. I think this needs to be like not a revenge, but an avenge for Sam off the top to explain why he's so motivated. So I think Torres either needs to be paralyzed or killed or like hurt way worse because he's got like a bruise on his cheek. And that's not much of a motivating factor. And on top of that, I think Carly needs speeches. Carly needs to be motivating people. Like they're always talking about how more people are joining the Flag Smashers, but why? Like she never has like a big crowd speech where she's like, this is our goal and this is our methods and this is what you'll get. Like nothing like that. Or at the very least, I think what this show needed was a new recruit who Carly is initiating and explaining things to and showing things to so we have an entry point into who Carly is and why she's doing things and also what she's doing because she doesn't appear to be doing very much at all.
Right.
So I really just need more Carly because she does do a good job and she on paper is very interesting and very like morally conflicted and kind of cool, but like she's so underdeveloped that underdevelops every other character around her. Sam and Bucky and John have no reason to be going after her this hard, and no one really seems to have a reason to join her so hard as they do. It's all so wishy-washy. So I'm gonna boost Carly's charisma and character development, and I think that's gonna boost all the people around her. And I think that's really going to help everything because the chemistry with Sam and Bucky's great. Their development's pretty good. The fight scenes are pretty good. I think if we can get this plot more cohesive and motivated, we could really fix a lot of this. So my main changes are Carly. Andrew, what would you change?
I like that. I agree with your changes on Carly. I could go either direction there. I feel like another solution would be to delete Carly entirely.
Oh, shit. Who's the bad guy?
Because, well, there's too many bad guys. I honestly think that this needs to be streamlined, and I'm not even going to fight for Carly specifically because I could get on board with your idea of more Carly. But I think this movie needs to delete 1.5 of the bads. And that would mean the one would either be John Walker or Carly. One of them have got to go. And then this power broker bullshit or Zemo have to go.
Yeah, that's way too much.
And those are the halves. Those are the halves. Batrock's fine. It's just like a beat 'em up or whatever. He's just a muscle for hire opening shot, and that's it, really. But it has way too many villain plot lines. And then once you add in, as fun as Julia Louis-Dreyfus is as Val / Madam Hydra maybe, or whoever she's going to actually be, that's fine as a cameo. But now we've got our 5th villain going on in this movie, or into this show for 6 episodes. A villain an episode, but all of them are the runner.
Yeah, it's not a villain per episode.
It's not a monster of the week. Like, this is the same amount of villains and enemies that Supernatural would do when it's a villain of the week. But they're trying to do all of them as the same level of power of big running bad. And I think a couple of them need to be deleted. Because if this was a show that was just about who's going to take over as Captain America, it shouldn't be John Walker. What does John Walker represent? Does John Walker represent the ugly side of America, of a hyper-militarized policing and getting away with it with a slap on the wrist for committing violent crimes and abuse of power? And how does that reflect that change? Or we delete that storyline entirely. And then it's, what does Carly represent in respect to Bucky? Is that she is this wanderer who has nothing but family and has been accepted everywhere for what she fights for as a soldier. She is the anti-Bucky, and John is the anti-Sam. And on paper, either of those should work, but they get in each other's way. And trying to give equal billing might have actually made it worse. We just need to get rid of one of those villains and then one of the half villains. I would say the power broker, because I hate how it removes and unwrites and redoes all of Sharon Carter, but also Zemo removes a bunch of the agency of the main characters, so Zemo would be fine to go. Yeah, we need to lose 1.5 villain. I don't care about the combo. That's how I would change this season.
I absolutely agree. Yeah, they have no idea where any of these villains are going, and it feels like there's going to be like 2 more seasons. Like, it should be a Marvel Netflix show that had 13 episodes if you're going to have this many.
Right.
Even then, that's too many villains.
It's still too many villains.
But yeah, they didn't. It felt like a cameo party for a lot of the show. It was like, oh, Zemo's here now. Oh, the Dora Milaje are here now. Sharon's here now. But like, they don't. War Machine's in one episode, but they're not fully integrated into the plot. Like, they're not characters.
Yeah. And if this was a show with no overarching villain, if they did do a villain of the week buddy cop show.
Well, then that's great. That's a different fun show.
I fully agree. Like, where they're like, here's an episode about the power broker. Here's an episode where we break Zemo out of prison. Here's an episode where change it up every single one. That's a different kind of fun. But you can't have 6 overarching villains for a season.
No, and they're all here like almost the entire show. It's
all with almost equal billing, with equal agency.
And I think Zemo's the only one that goes to jail. Oh, Carly dies.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it.
People have got to go.
All right.
Let's get rid of somebody.
We got to get rid of somebody, and those we keep, we develop them better.
Yeah. Yeah, and but who cares? It'll be movies now anyway.
It'll be movies now. Sam's Captain America, and that's dope.
That's dope. It's amazing.
He looks incredible.
He looks incredible. He's given a phenomenal performance. It's a rich character. I like that they changed how he flies, his fighting style a bit. He's a little bit more capoeira now, and this kind of like spinny guy, which I think is interesting.
That's because they got rid of the guns.
Got rid of the guns. He's a new guy now.
New shield.
New Cap, who dis? Love it.
New Cap, it's Sam.
It's Sam. All right, I think that's it.
That's it.
You feeling good?
Feeling pretty good.
Sweet. Well, that's going to be it.
Feel better if it was like really good.
Yeah, that would have been nice. Just remember WandaVision. That was great, right? Loki soon.
Loki soon.
Loki.
Here's the problem. I also really like Loki.
Uh-huh.
And every time one
But
of my
Bucky's-
boys gets a
Bucky's your
show,
boy.
they're not good. Because I also really love Iron Fist. Iron Fist was the first show I was really excited about because one of my favorite boys got a show.
Right.
And it was bad. And then Bucky got a show. And it's also not very great. And I'm like, I'm going to...
It's not Iron Fist bad.
It's not Iron Fist bad, but it's still disappointing. And now I'm worried about what I'm going to do for Loki.
And he doesn't have the long hair eyeshadow look that you enjoy
I
either.
like him with short hair too. I don't know why you're so obsessed with me thinking I like long-haired boys. I like them all.
Maybe I've looked at the historical data. I refer to the chart that listeners you can't see, but there's a chart here.
It's not my fault. They usually have long hair. I like them short too.
All right. Noted.
I'll make my own chart, motherfucker.
All right, bring on the charts.
Charts.
That's going to be it for us this week. Next week on the podcast, we're going to be talking about the new Mortal Kombat movie. That's going to be the kind of energy we're bringing next week. So until then, if you want to get a hold of us, you can reach me on Twitter at Ivimey, I-V-I-M-E-Y.
You can reach me at Words of Diana.
And you're going to reach both of us at From Superheroes. And we'll see y'all next week.
Bye.